Can you tell that I'm smiling with my eyes? Well, temporarily I can take this off. It's another week, it's another vlog. And I really wanted to talk to you about a really interesting article that I've been reading. I actually researched this last year as well because it was just so interesting. It was published in Developmental Medicine and Child Neurology, a top journal. And it was published by my friend Magnus Pohlman, a neurologist from Sweden. Now, he did his PhD because he was really interested to find out what the co-occurrence of ADHD, autism and intellectual disability was in children with cerebral palsy. Now, the reason for this is because we know that not all children with cerebral palsy are the same. And we know that children can respond to treatments in a different kind of way. So what are the reasons that might contribute to that? So he looked at the population register, which is the oldest register for cerebral palsy in Sweden. Now, this register has been around for a very long time. So he was able to take out 200 children with cerebral palsy, median age of about 14 years and a range from 7 to 18 years. And he conducted a series of clinical neuropsychology assessments so you could figure out how many of those children had ADHD or autism or an intellectual disability. Now, the results were surprising, but it also explains a lot of what we kind of already know. So what we did find in that was that 45% of children had either ADHD or autism or both. Now, to break it down a little bit more, 30% of children with cerebral palsy in that age range had autism. 51% of children had an intellectual disability. Now, when combined, 2/3 of children with cerebral palsy, regardless of motor type, whether they could move independently or not, had a diagnosis of ADHD, autism, or an intellectual disability. Now, those are really high numbers, and when I spoke to Magnus about this as well, he's like, well, it's high, but it explains a lot about what it is that we see. So what do we do about these results? It tells us that we need to be very proactive. Early intervention goes both ways. We want to be able to know whether children have cerebral palsy, but we also want to know if there's other comorbidities that might contribute to whether they need additional support or whether they need other early intervention. So I think that these results are one of those things where you don't want to be too worried about it either. This doesn't spark off this whole need to go and get lots of assessments. I think what this does say to you as parents, though, is if you do suspect anything there, whether your child might have any of those other conditions, is that you probably should just raise it with your pediatricians and let them know what it is that you're seeing. Because maybe there's something there that we can assist with. Now, we know there's a lot of wait lists around Perth at the moment, so that in itself can create a fair bit of anxiety of knowing that you need to find additional support. But what I think that does also say as well is it's just so important to have a multidisciplinary team. You might be seeing a physio for your child because we know cerebral palsy is very much a motor-based intervention, but having the support of occupational therapy and speech pathology on how we can communicate, the different ways that we can communicate, looking at different kind of timetables and visual schedules, those are some simple interventions that you can apply regardless of whether you have a diagnosis. So I think that's actually really encouraging, and it shouldn't be something that can worry us. So as I make myself a cup of tea, a few take-home messages here are: there is this co-occurrence. 2/3 of children will have ADHD, autism or intellectual disability, regardless of motor type, and it's probably underdiagnosed in children who require more physical assistance and equipment, purely because it's actually quite hard to do all of the assessments. And if you need some support, talk to your team, talk to your pediatrician, because there is support out there, and sometimes there are some simple solutions that can be out there as well to support you through this journey. So if you want any access to this article, it's actually free and available online. So we'll put a link for that for you. But it's really interesting, and drop us an email if you have any questions as well. So that's all for this week's vlog. Time for me to put on my mask and have my cup of tea. Okay.